Welcome back to Telltale Books. I'm Greg Kirkman, and this video is going to continue my series on the complete works of Greg Bear, or at least everything I can get my hands on. This will be number 3 in my Greg Bear series, and the story here is called Perihesperon, I think. And it was published in 1975. It's just a short story. It originally appeared in this anthology, Tomorrow, edited by Roger Elwood. Now, if you go exploring science fiction anthologies from the 1970s, you're going to come across this guy a lot. Roger Elwood published a huge number of anthologies. I believe all of them were original anthologies. And it is estimated that he published a full quarter, 25% of all the new science fiction that was published between like 1971 and 1976 was all in anthologies that he edited and did. So he purchased all those stories for his books. And there are people that really didn't like him. I remember back then hearing people make comments about Roger Elwood. I'm not exactly sure what it all was about, but he published a lot of the best newer science fiction authors and new stories by a lot of the great older authors through the 1970s, and he published Greg Bear, he published Robert Silverberg, he worked with Robert Silverberg on some anthologies. This particular book has stories by Alan E. Norris and Brian W. Aldiss, Sonia Dorman, Terry Carr, Andrew Offutt, and Greg Bear. So this is a really nice book. And by the way, I was able to get this hardcover pretty inexpensively. So that's where the story first had its appearance, Perihesperon. Perihesperon, in the story Perihesperon, you have a spaceship that gets hit by a meteor there's, I think, like a ring of meteors around this one planet, and the spaceship's trying to cut a path close to this planet on its way to someplace else, but it gets unlucky and gets hit by a meteor, and everybody but this one young girl gets killed. There's a certain portion of the ship that remains pressurized, and this girl was in it, and she was sleeping, and she wakes up to find everybody gone. So she goes exploring through the parts of the ship that she can get into safely, and she does come across another man, but he was not passenger or crew on the ship. He is a space salvager. He saw the accident happen, and he right away came on board to see what he could get to resell and make some money off of. So the two of them are on this ship, and the ship is in an orbit which is going to take them back through the meteor field again and again. The salvage guy estimates that it's going to be 2 weeks before anybody can get there to save them, because there's nobody down on the planet that can help them out. So a ship has to be sent from elsewhere. And first they have to realize that this spaceship isn't arriving at its destination. So there's that time that has to pass. Once they realize that, they send another ship. It's going to take time for that ship to get there. It's a full 2 weeks before anybody gets there. Now they have limited food, limited air. This is a story that reminds me very much of a couple of other really excellent science fiction stories. One is called The Cold Equations by Tom Godwin, And the other one is The Only Neat Thing to Do by James Tiptree Jr., where you have a kind of similar sort of situation of people in a spaceship in a situation where they're not going to survive unless one of them exits, you know. The Only Neat Thing to Do is a much more dramatic situation. The Cold Equations is a very cold story, honestly. It's all about the reality of physics. Now this story is kind of sort of in between the two. You got that story of the reality of the physics of the situation, that there's just no way that they're both going to survive. And so what decision do they make? What's the right thing to do here? And so then it becomes very much a character story about, you know, the young girl and the salvager and their relationship and what decisions they make. And Bear did a very good job of building the character of the young girl and the salvager. And the salvager has this alien pet. Reminds me of a parakeet, but it's not a bird. It's an alien creature. But it's kind of there for comic relief, which actually lends a really nice touch to the story. Makes the story a very human story at the same time that it's about the cold, hard facts of science. So I really like this story a lot. I don't think it's good enough to make it all the way up into the classic status with the top tail status. Close but not quite. But I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend it if you want to look into older science fiction short stories and want something that's palatable to modern readership. I think this story has what it takes. I think it's something that anybody who likes science fiction and likes short stories, I think would like Perihesperon by Greg Bear. Leave comments of what you think. Have you read this story? Tell me about it. And like us and subscribe to us. Check out our Patreon. We would appreciate any support you can give us. And come on back for the next video. The next Greg Bear is a novelette called The Venging. I've never read this one, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. I'll see you in the next video.